For many first responders, alcohol is woven into culture. For some, it's a way to unwind. For others, it quietly becomes a way to cope with the trauma, stress, and pain that comes with this job. Today's guest is a firefighter-paramedic who knows that struggle firsthand. His story isn't just about addiction. It's about courage, recovery, and finding hope on the other side. If you're listening and silently fighting a battle of your own, this conversation is for you.
Welcome to Hearts for Healing, where we train minds and heal hearts through the stories of those who serve. Today's conversation is one many fire and EMS personnel know exists, but few openly discuss. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. I'm the host, Mark Worth. I've been EMS for close to 30 years in various agencies from fire, county, district, hospital, and all areas in between. My co-host is my son, Christopher.
Chris Worth. I'm also a paramedic, recently became a critical care paramedic, EMS for about 5 years, a couple years private agency, and finished my year as a fire medic just recently.
And our special guest this round is a guy I've known for a little bit and has been with at least, how long?
2000 and here for about 10 years and in the EMS and fire in general since 2000.
Yeah. So kind of tell us a little bit about your background and your history and why you got into EMS.
Yeah. So my name's Kent. Thanks for having me on. It really means a lot. I think what you're doing on the podcast is amazing, and it's an important conversation to have. But yeah, just a little bit about me. I was born and raised east of Colorado Springs in a town called Peyton. I mean, it was a really small place. I graduated with like 20 people in my class, and great place to grow up. I don't want to live there anymore, but it was great. So I got my first exposure to the fire department out east with a volunteer fire department in the hometown that I lived in. And, people who know me now know that I'm not as passionate about EMS as I used to be, but that's really what got me interested in the profession was, being out east. Like there was no medical care out there at all. And it's really what started to interest me in getting into fire and EMS. So when I was 18, I started volunteering in the fire department, and then I went to EMT school right away. I was an EMT for, about 2.5 years. And then I became a paramedic in 2011. So, I don't really have that one singular moment that like, this is exactly why I want to be in fire and EMS. Yeah. But, a couple of my friends did it, and it seemed cool what they were doing. And, so to actually get into it, it was like, it just seemed like something cool to do. I wasn't really drawn by some passion, or I didn't feel this like deep calling or anything. And, but then once I got into it, then it was like, okay, I see what we do. I see the impact that we can have on people. I see the importance of, supporting the hometown that you grew up in and things like that. And that's when my passion for it started to really take off. So, and then from there, the EMS stuff is really what got me interested in. No ALS capabilities out there when I first started. We had to wait for an ambulance to come out of Falcon, and it was an ambulance from the private ambulance company, and it would come out of Falcon. And sometimes it was like 45 minutes or so until it could get out there, especially if Flight for Life couldn't fly. And so I decided that I would go to paramedic school, and it was really cool. Me and the people that were out there on the board of directors, we worked with Dr. Gifford actually was our medical director. And we started an ALS program in that community. To my knowledge, it still exists. I don't know. I'm pretty far removed from that, but that's a pretty proud thing to be a part of, be my first paramedic out there and, kind of help get that program off the ground. And, for what it's worth, I think it impacted a lot of people for some years. I don't know if it's still going, but if it is, that'd be awesome. Yeah. So yeah, and then of course I work for some county agencies surrounding the fire department, surrounding the city. I worked for Falcon Fire Department, and then I spent 6 years or so as private ambulance as a paramedic, and then finally got hired with the fire department here in Colorado Springs. So it's been a journey, but every piece of it mattered. I don't look back on any piece of it and wish it never happened, or each step that I took kind of got me to where I am today. So super grateful for it. And it's kind of the broad overview for sure.
What were the jobs like before EMS? Anything similar? Anything?
Yeah, no, I worked at a busboy as a busboy at a Mexican restaurant.
Yeah, nice.
Funny story, I bust somebody's table when he was in the bathroom. He was in the bathroom for a while, and I busted his table while he was in the bathroom. He came back out and said, "Where'd my dinner go?" And then I worked at a tree farm called Harding Nursery. I worked out east. There was a farm out there where they grew all the trees and plants and stuff. So I worked on that.
You know what's funny is all the jobs that I've worked in my career, had some oddball ones.
Yeah.
You know, working for a meat packing plant, deli, you name it, right? All the oddball. Being a waiter or a bartender was probably the most applicable job to being a healthcare provider.
Sure.
In the field that we operate in.
Yeah.
A lot of people skills are required.
A lot of people skills, a lot of de-escalation, a lot of maneuvering of information and
learning how to listen to a conversation that you weren't exactly expecting.
Yep.
And just somebody presenting their life to you at the bar.
Mhm.
I worked as a bar back for a little bit as
Okay.
well. So
yeah, it's a definitely a different experience, you know, when you talk about, and then you get into EMS, it's like, oh, this is pretty familiar. Yep.
I know how to talk to
You
people.
know how to talk to people.
Yeah.
one thing that I've told everybody is only 5 years in EMS. But I worked at McDonald's. I worked fast food. Still not as stressful as fast food.
Yeah.
When you had like 10 orders coming on the screen and everybody's mad and the front is like waiting on orders too, that was stressful.
Yeah.
That was a different kind of stress.
Yeah, especially now they yell at you
Yeah.
Totally.
all the time. Yeah.
Yep.
So awesome. So when looking at this, you know, what was happening internally that nobody knew going through your career? And it sounds like you had a pretty good career. You're starting up from a small town to a large entity.
Yeah.
Spend a long time as a firefighter EMS. Evidently, it became part of your identity of who you are, is being a firefighter, being a paramedic, being an EMT, healthcare provider. So what was happening internally that nobody knew, or that especially loved ones, friends, people close, maybe people far, that was happening that nobody knew?
Yeah, I think you know, some of the biggest man, how do I say that? I think one of the biggest problems that I've always had is my ego. So like when I was young in EMS, I wanted to impress the OGs out there, and I wanted to be a really good paramedic, and I wanted to be a good provider. And I kind of learned that from them, and I had to protect this ego. Like if I didn't do good on a call, it was always somebody else's fault, or it was always the patient's fault, or like it's never my fault. Like,
Right.
I'm perfect, right? So because of that, that was like the first mask that I put on. Like I had this big ego, and the way I covered that was just by being mean. Like I was kind of this gruff, and I still have that reputation a little bit, and there is some truth to that. Like I am a very blunt and straightforward person, but I really wore this mask of like just trying to be louder and meaner than everybody, because I couldn't imagine if you saw me for who I really was. Like I was uncomfortable on a call, or I didn't actually know what I was doing, or whatever it was, and so that was probably the first big one. That was like this first big mask that I wore. And then as the years progressed, and obviously we'll get into it, but, when I started drinking a lot heavier, and when I started to turn down this really bad path, then I had to really put the mask on. Like I had to act like I had my life together when I was at work, because I was taking care of people, and even so, working for the fire department, I was a part of a crew, and I had to make it through a fire academy, and I had to do all that stuff. So I had to put on this mask that everything was okay. And in reality, nothing was okay. Like, I was a complete a-hole to my wife. I was a bad employee. I was a bad friend. I was a flake, like all of those things. And, but I had to, in an effort to try to preserve relationships, and again, preserve my ego, I had to make sure that people knew that I was a good person, and I wasn't treating Emily poorly, and I wasn't being, a terrible employee and all that stuff. So, so I had that. And then I think the other thing that obviously a lot of us carry around is, the calls we run, right? Like I've said it before, like I like to separate, for me personally, in my experience, I like to separate the calls that we run do impact me, and they have impacted me.
Mm-hmm.
But that isn't why I truly don't believe that's why I started drinking the way that I drank. I started drinking the way that I drank because I genuinely believe I have a disease that creates a different reaction in my body than it does other people. But what I did do is anytime I ran a bad call, I would use that as an excuse. Like,
Right.
Oh man, this is perfect. It's a, Planned Parenthood shooting. It's the Halloween shooting the year after. It's the, just the horrific calls that we see. Right. I would use those as an excuse to continue my bad behavior.
Do you think that also comes from a culture that accepts alcohol as a buffer
Absolutely.
to deal with those types of calls?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was totally a culture thing, especially when I first started. Because I feel like it's only been maybe 8 years to a decade that, even though peer support programs have been out there and resources are available, I don't think it's been culturally acceptable to talk about, mental health and addiction issues until maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was like you first of all, it's normal. Like if you're not a heavy drinker in EMS, especially, working nights or whatever, you're the abnormal one. So it was all perfect for me. I had the perfect excuse. And, but the other thing that I was, that I really truly believe is the calls do impact me. I've been sober for a while now and the calls still impact me. And in fact, they might impact me a little bit more because I'm no longer numb to everything that goes on around. But I had to then, because it wasn't culturally acceptable and I wasn't comfortable talking about it, I had to pretend like, oh, I'm just robotic. I can turn my brain off and I can not, I'll provide care. It doesn't matter. This isn't my problem. I do the best I can do and then I move on.
So you disassociate, really?
100%.
Yeah.
I dissociate with all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Not even just.
I'm not even here right now.
So yeah, those, and in that, I think that sparked, years long of untreated anxiety, years of untreated depression. I've been very cautious about where I talk about it, but because it does really hurt me and it really hurts Emily. But I've had suicidal thoughts in the past, mainly because like, how do you get out of this? Like,
Right.
how do I?
You spiral.
Yeah, like I've got no solution. I've got no out. So all of those things were going on inside, but here I am. Like I'm a good employee. I'm a good paramedic. I got hired with the fire department. I'm married. I own a house. My family's good. Like everything's fine. And then inside, I'm hanging on by a thread.
Yeah.
And I'll only speak for myself, but if somebody else said, yeah, that probably accounts for a large portion of the people that we work with, I'd be like, yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. There's definitely that there.
Yeah.
When was, because that timeline, it kind of just describes, how it became a part of your life.
Mm-hmm.
What point of that timeline were you like starting to realize, man, I think this might be a problem?
Yeah. My drinking early, I knew I drank differently than most people. Shoot, when I was probably 18, 19, high school parties, I'm like, these guys can't keep up, but then I realize now that I'm like, well, that's because they're normal and you have a problem.
Right.
But I think the anxiety, the depression, the more, I guess, mental health side of the house, I think that really started to be a problem probably towards the end of my time with private EMS and when I was getting hired fire department. But then things happen in life, right? Like getting hired with the fire department, things got really good all of a sudden. And, it was kind of a change in my life and everything was great. And I wasn't anxious or depressed and I was living a great life. And then, that starts to settle in as the new norm. And then you're like, oh man, the feelings are still there. The anxiety is still there.
Still doing the same thing, just a different place.
Wherever I go, there I am.
You get that dopamine hit of change.
Yeah.
It suppresses those feelings that you normally have every day.
Yeah.
You feel like you're on the up.
Yeah.
And then the normalcy of the situation comes back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, that's probably around 2016. So probably 10 years ago or so is when I really recognized the anxiety and depression type stuff as a true problem. But I was still drinking at the time. So that clearly didn't help anything.
Yeah. Does the anxiety, was it more anxiety on shift or was it anxiety coming off shift when you were alone?
It was, yeah, I feel like I lived in a chronic state of some level of anxiety, whether I was on duty, off duty, good things going on, bad things going on. I had an undercurrent of anxiety for a long time. Like I'm by nature, I think more of a worrier. Like I'm just a little more high strung and I know that. But yeah, that anxiety was there really no matter what. And then things on duty would spike it up or, a situation off duty would spike it. And so it was always there.
Yeah.
So it sounds like when you're looking at this, you picked up alcohol as a part of one of two things, right? We use it as a coping mechanism. Sometimes we use it to celebrate.
Yeah.
Right. And then you get into this kind of trap. I'm celebrating or I'm coping.
Yeah.
And, looking at your experiences through your career, was there anything specific that would fuel the coping part of it more?
So I think, well, first of all, I think, I came into EMS with a drinking problem already. It was, I hate to say it, but it was like managed. It was under control kind of when I came into EMS. So I already had that issue, and then it just got heavier when I would cope. And I think truly the reason that it got really bad is because it was so normal.
Okay.
In EMS and in fire in general, it is such a normal thing to drink and to drink to excess that, man, it just was like, it didn't seem weird. So, and then very specifically, like the Planned Parenthood shooting, when I ran out, I was the first ambulance to Planned Parenthood shooting, and that screwed me up. Like I did mainly because I didn't have any other healthy way to cope. Like I'd never developed those skills. I had never developed the ability to talk to other people or, share that in any meaningful way. So it definitely got worse because of that. So that I feel like that's kind of I know that at that point it got worse, and I got a lot of mileage out of that. I used that as an excuse for a long time. And then every year when it was Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, when Planned Parenthood happened, that was a perfect excuse to continue on, and it would bring back a lot of those emotions. And then of course, and actually he wouldn't care if I said it, but Chris Valentine was actually my partner on the ambulance that day. So we always kind of shared that. You hate to call it sharing that bond, but we shared that bond together. And, I would personally always use it as an excuse to go off the deep end that day.
Yeah, we forget bonds happen in all kinds of different ways, right?
Yeah.
And the military sharing a foxhole.
Yeah.
Right. EMS sharing, partner experiences, fire, ripping fire.
Yeah.
And you guys you get out of it barely alive. These bonds occur, and it's okay to say that, right? We were bonded through trauma.
Yeah.
And that bond, again, sometimes you almost celebrate those bonding moments.
Yeah.
And hey, do you remember that? Oh man, it was, and you get that repeat dope, and then now here comes the alcohol.
Yeah.
Right. And so you're almost kind of training yourself to get back into that process.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what we said earlier. It's, with alcohol, it's usually you're celebrating or you're coping or escaping. It's kind of the process. So
yeah.
Was there a point where after realization and maybe after the more stressful calls that alcohol kind of changed from thinking that it was like an alcoholism problem to now treating like underlying pain rather than like a drinking problem itself?
No, I think, in fact, I think that over time, alcohol just quit working for me.
Yeah.
So it at first it has the desired effect. Like I drink for the effect of alcohol. Like that's when I drank, that's why I did it. Sure, I like the taste of some things or whatever, but it was a mechanism for me. So over time, it works for a while and then it doesn't work. So you drink more and then, okay, now it's working again. And then you drink more and now it's working again and again. And then there comes a point where it's like, well, this doesn't work. It doesn't matter what I drink. Doesn't matter how much I drink. It doesn't work anymore. But then you're really just like, I can't imagine life with alcohol. I can't imagine life without alcohol. So I'm in this limbo of like, I don't know what to do. Like I can't not drink, but I also don't want to drink as much as I do anymore. I don't want to drink period anymore, but I'm like stuck. I have dug myself this hole where alcohol doesn't even work for me. It makes me feel terrible. I make horrific decisions. I'm awful to people. It's ruining my life. It's going to ruin my career. Sure, I'll have some more.
Then the guilt comes on.
100%. Guilt and shame.
Guilt and shame.
Yes.
And then how do you hide the guilt and shame?
Drink a little bit.
Or drink a little bit. Yeah. I mean, I remember early in my career, because again, I started out, late 90s, at the end of our, what I like to call the teenage years of EMS.
Yeah.
And, we weren't taught how to cope. Code Green wasn't out yet. We didn't have these things, and we'd have these horrific calls that were never just, as a human, were never meant to see. And, I would drink to try and shut my mind down, because you get into these thought processes and you're thinking about, oh, I wish if I could have done this better, if I could have been faster on this process, or, you just the point where mind just can't shut down.
Yeah.
Like you're on that that dopamine high and you're just coming down and you cannot get your brain to shut off.
Yeah.
And so you would use alcohol to help suppress that, suppress the memories, suppress the pain, and then somewhat get that euphoric a little bit. And you're like, oh, okay, now I'm getting to the point where, now, and I can get that sleep.
Yeah.
And even if it's 1 hour, 2 hours, you're chasing that sleep, right? The peace that at some point in time, alcohol will give you a shut off point. Right.
It will shut you down.
It will shut you down eventually. And we forget about the pain of the aftermath, but that moment you get to go to sleep and close those eyes and rest. And that's what's hard.
Yeah. And I think that what I know now too is I have no real data to support this. This is very anecdotal for me in my experience, but I feel like because I used alcohol as a coping mechanism, I didn't give my brain the opportunity to process those memories and those things that happened, or the calls that I ran, or the things that I saw. It didn't give my brain a chance to process those in a healthy way. So then they created problems later on. I actually, this probably sounds crazy, I don't regret anything. Like I would love to have not treated people the way that I did. I would love to have lived a different life, but it's who I am today, and it's changed my life for the better. But I'd be interested to know, like, if I went back and ran those same calls and then got through them with a clear mind without a substance, what it would do. Like, would I be a little more? And I'm good now, but I've had to do a lot of work to get there, right? Tons of work to get there. I'd be interested to see what it would be like.
Yeah, it's interesting because you look at, we were talking about a little bit about this earlier, but if you're asked, would you rather know the past or the future?
Yeah.
Taking this in the context, what would you rather know?
Man, I had an answer earlier. Now you got me on that. I would say this. I would be interested to know the past. I want to learn the past, but I would never, again, it sounds crazy, I wouldn't go back and change it. Like, because I know that because of what I've gone through, I have the opportunity to help other people. I can relate with other people who might not relate with somebody else. So I would love to go back and learn the past, but I don't think I would change it.
Every mistake you make is every success you have, every pain is a brick in the foundation of you, right? You today is from all of it. And so it's really hard to change those. You don't want to, if you change that, then you change who you are now, right? So what would you want, past or future?
Man, I kind of wanted to go back in the past. It's still really fresh for me. I started experiencing really bad anxiety after my first aid cleared at my fire department at a really bad traffic accident. First time seeing a guy's brain outside of his head and still alive was hard. And it wasn't like my first time seeing a bad trauma, but it's what my therapist was like, you keep putting into your backpack until it's full at a point. And I know, a couple years earlier, I had a young fatality out east. And it was just kind of like maybe the motorcycles or what did it. But, I feel like I've always had anxiety, especially like when I used to play basketball. I feel like I was always an anxious person back then. And I would want to know if it was the EMS that affected me the most, or if this was just building up since a child.
Sure.
If it wasn't exactly the work that I was doing that caused it, rather like my body's starting to understand how to process the feeling. And it's like, well, we might as well throw it into EMS because this stuff's scary.
Yeah.
Is it the cause or is it the amplifying aspect of it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's important also when we're talking about alcohol, is it can amplify.
Yeah.
And that's the part that we all try to avoid, right? When you take that sip of beer, you take that alcohol drink, your hope is that you go to the happy place.
Yeah.
Your hope is that I'm going to go get some sleep. I'm going to feel euphoric and great. But what we forget is it can take you to the other side of the place, right? And then we go to that hole of which you're on rinse, wash, repeat.
Yeah. And
then then you can't get out of it. That is hard. Have you ever had one of those moments?
Yeah, for like a decade before. And I'm glad you brought that up because, you kind of put words to what I alluded to, but alcohol worked until it didn't. And that's exactly what happened to me. Like, it worked by suppressing for a long time, and it worked by making me happy and joyous and, all of these good things. And then I don't know why, I don't know when necessarily, but it just stopped and it just made things worse.
Right.
So I have these emotions that I'm trying to suppress. I drink alcohol, it amplifies it. I have shame and guilt. I can come down just a little bit. I drink alcohol to try to cover that. I have more shame and guilt. I have more anxiety.
Yeah.
And I went through that for, I'm serious, years and years and years. You know, I didn't just magically get, once I committed, I like had a spiritual experience and magically got sober in the blink of an eye and never wanted another drink again. And that's a whole different conversation for another day, probably. But I tried time and time again. You know, there was plenty of times where I would try to stay sober and not drink and white knuckle it. And, you know, I would only drink on occasion. I would only drink with my friends. I wouldn't drink in the house alone, all of those things. And that was all part of that alcohol just not working for me for years.
So your skills and your passion for EMS during this time, what was it like running on ETOH patients? Did it have any sort of effect knowing your personal life at the time?
Yeah, it was interesting because that's another mask I get to wear, right? Like I see, well, I think what it did too is for a long time, I didn't think the term alcoholic fit me. Like, I didn't think that's who I was. I know I am now. Like, I know that the term alcoholic fits me perfectly. But back then I thought alcoholic is like, you know, guys who live under the bridge, they lost everything. They, you know, have one shoe. They don't even have a pair of shoes to their name.
So if you ask 5 paramedics to draw what a alcoholic would look like, they would all draw very similar pictures.
Yeah. I would guess, unless you know something about yourself. And like, if you asked me that, I could easily draw a picture of myself.
Right.
The guy who's taking care of the perceived alcoholic. Right? You know, so to answer your question, it was a real, I never felt authentic. I never felt authentic in how I was interacting with those people because I'm pretending like I'm better. Like, look at me, I'm here to take care of you. Giving like, hey man, you know, you shouldn't drink this much. It's really bad for you. That you're making terrible decisions. And I'm like, are you talking to yourself? You should be. So that was hard, you know, knowing that the night before I had blacked out and gotten in a fight with all of my friends and my wife. And here I am. I'm going to give this guy a lecture on drinking. Like, I have no business talking to this guy about alcoholism. So, yeah, that was those ones were a challenge for me, you know, and quite honestly, it kind of went back to that first mask I talked about where my ego was like, in that moment, I knew that I was actually that person and it was hurting my ego inside. And in an effort to really protect that, I oftentimes was mean to those people.
Right.
So I don't regret my drinking past necessarily, but I regret a lot of the behaviors. Like, if I could go back and not treat some of those people the way that I did, I'd take it in a heartbeat.
How difficult was it hiding the struggle? Or, you know, you said it yourself at the time, you know, alcoholism is a term that nobody wants to say.
Yeah.
It's kind of taboo.
Yeah.
You know, so you're probably hiding some type of pain.
Yeah.
You know, trying to mask that pain with the alcohol. You know, how hard was it to actually hide it?
Yeah, I think it was, I don't want to say easy. I didn't think about it much when I was out in public. Like, it had become such a normal thing for me to pretend to be somebody else that it wasn't hard. I knew it inside though. It was where it was really hard to hide. It was around around Emily, around my wife, like, because she got to see how I drank and how I treated her and how I, you know, just really truly who I was. She got to see that. And then I go and put on a face in public and she's like, come on, buddy, you're not fooling me. So that was really hard for me. Like, internally, that was really hard because I knew I had a problem. I wasn't willing to say I had a problem. I was trying to, you know, pretend like I didn't have a problem. And it didn't hurt me as much to be disingenuous or unauthentic to other people who I didn't really know. It was really hard for me to do it around Emily. And I think, to be totally honest with you, I probably just gave up on that after a period of time. Like, I just quit hiding who I really was at home. And that's why it was so hard, you know.
Do you think in the beginning, a lot of that was also pride and arrogance? You're like, yeah, I got this.
Yep.
Like, I can hide this pretty easy.
Yep. I can hide it. I can control it was a big one. Like, I don't actually have a problem. And when I realized I did have a problem, like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, I can get through it. It'll be fine. I can hide it. Yep. Absolutely. And I think I know in my experience, all that's for me is tied to ego. Like, whether it's arrogance, whether it's pride, whether it's, you know, hiding, masking, treating people differently, it's all ego for me.
Right.
As long as I can protect my ego, we're good.
You're fine.
All good to go.
if you care to mention it all, I'm not sure if your spouse is healthcare at all, but
Yeah.
was it easier or harder to explain what you were trying to cope with? And she is healthcare. Was it easier or harder to kind of explain, like, listen, you understand, like, this could happen kind of thing?
Yeah. So I was, I've said it a lot before to a lot of people. I was a master manipulator back then. Like I could manipulate just about anybody into thinking whatever I wanted them to think, or act in a certain way. So because she is in healthcare, because she is, she's in EMS as well. So because she was in EMS and ran those same calls and saw a lot of the same stuff, and she knew that it impacted people. So I got to use her general knowledge of these bad calls impact people. I got to use that against her as kind of this open, this like hall pass to just be whoever I needed to be, to just continue my behavior. So that was, I used that. There's no other way to say it. Like I used her understanding of what we do and what we see. I used it for my advantage. And it's hard to say that. Like it hurts to say that. I can actually say it now without crying, which is it's progress. But when I think back on that, like I think back on how I used her and how I manipulated her and how I, for lack of a better word, it was like emotional abuse. Like it absolutely was emotional abuse. And I used that for my own personal gain and for my own ego protecting and for my own, it was all about me. As long as I got what I needed and wanted, I was good. So it's really hard to think back on that, but I know that's exactly what I was doing.
It sounds like one of the lies that addiction kind of tells you.
Yeah.
Right. Is, hurt people. Yeah. We always hear that term. Mm-hmm. And, one of the lies that it'll tell you is it's them, not me.
Yeah.
It's, the alcohol is the one that protects me, not you.
Yeah.
You don't understand. Even though they're in healthcare, they're not you.
Yeah.
Right. It's part of the manipulation. You manipulate yourself.
Yeah.
And you paint your picture.
Yeah.
Right. To what you want to see and what you like. And that's what the alcohol does, right? It's a spirit. Yeah. And that thing's taking that inside you and you're just manipulating inside and outside everything to justify the use of that drink.
Yeah.
And that's what's hard. I mean, coming from a family of alcoholics, most people don't understand, don't know my background, but you can hear in your story, I'm just thinking back of the things that I went through.
Yeah.
I watched my father, my mother, and I'm looking at it going, wow, it's amazing what the lies this will tell you. It's not alcoholism. I'm sure you said that to yourself to the point finally you're prideful and go, yeah, I'm an alcoholic, but it's not going to take me down.
Sure.
I'm not going to be that guy. Yeah. Until you're in the ER with pancreatitis, right? Screaming in pain and the doc telling you, you really need to quit drinking. You're like, I don't have a problem.
Yeah.
It's amazing how you manipulate your own internal being to justify the drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, any health issues that came of it that you're willing to speak about?
So, and as far as anything, I'm super open book. You can ask me whatever you want. And I'll just BS my way through an answer too. I'm just kidding. No, so I actually got very lucky. I don't, knock on wood, have any long-term health effects from the amount that I drank. That's not to say that I didn't have some run-ins with EMS. One of the most horrific stories that, like, it could have been a really horrific story. I decided one night that it was a good idea to take a nap on Boulder Street right outside of Memorial Central. I was actually at Boulder and Institute. I was walking back home from downtown, and I don't recall very much of this at all, but I decided to lay on Boulder with my head up against the curb, right on the sidewalk, legs out in Boulder, and somebody called 911 on me. So I woke up to engine one, an ambulance, and 4 or 5 cops, and decided that I was going to get away from all of them, and I was going to run away and fight them. And so I got a little aggressive with them, and I got super lucky because they knew who I was. Talk about a hit to the ego, man. I knew everybody that was there. Maybe not all the cops, but I knew everybody on the engine. I knew everybody on the ambulance. And this is probably 12 years ago, maybe 13 years ago. So it's a long time ago, before I got hired with fire department. But yeah, they put me in the back of an ambulance and helped me get home. And, But I mean, I probably should have gone to the hospital. Anybody else would have gone to the hospital, or anybody else would have gotten, at least had some interaction with the police department, but I didn't. I got very lucky. So I had some run-ins like that. But beyond that, no, and I'm very fortunate for that.
Is that your rock bottom moment, or was that just one moment, one of few?
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody actually early on in my sobriety taught me that rock bottom is when we stop digging the hole.
Yeah.
Now I did quit drinking for a while after that. I'm like, oh man, I got a problem. And rather than I've got to quit drinking, I need to get this back under control. Like, because I want to continue to drink. So I got to rein that in, because if I'm falling asleep on Boulder all the time, they're going to, everybody's going to think I have a problem. So I stopped and I controlled it for a while. And, but like I know now, it doesn't matter. It's a progressive disease. If I stopped, I've been sober for a little over 4.5 years. And if I picked up a drink tonight, I could probably control it for a day or two, maybe. And then I would be off to the races again. Like, it's a progressive illness. It doesn't back off just because I've been sober for a period of time. Like, I would be off to the races again. So
that's the temptation, right? Because that's in your head, and the internal manipulation.
Yeah.
One's fine.
I'll be okay. This time it'll be different.
Yeah. This time's different. That's not me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I have reins on it now.
Yeah.
Or if I do it, I know I could get out of it because I got out of it once.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's okay.
So
there's the
I can
pride.
get it back under
I can get
control.
it back under control.
Yeah. There's the pride that comes in. It's amazing how it all ties together in one you get 3, 4, 5 strings. You got a tight rope, and that rope is around your neck, and it's killing you.
Yeah.
And man, we like that rope.
Mm-hmm.
That's the hard part. And so when you looked at this and you saw that, if that wasn't your rock bottom, what was your rock bottom?
So I won't talk about the details of my rock bottom. There's one person who knows that, and that's how it's going to stay, and probably until I go to the grave, unless I'm forced to tell somebody else. But it was
enough to scare you.
It was enough to scare me, because it probably should have ruined my marriage. Like, I was treating Emily in a way that, like, you can't even explain. I can't even explain how terrible I was being to her. But for no good reason. Like, and it's weird, right? That it wasn't my rock bottom wasn't falling asleep on Boulder and almost getting hit by a car and having people call 911 on me. My rock bottom was like, something came over me. Like, how can I be treating this person like this so poorly? Like, she's been through so much already because of me. How in the world could I continue down this path? And for whatever reason, that night, the people who were involved in that night are still my friends, and I'm very grateful for them. That night is the last time I ever took a drink. And God willing, it'll be the last time I ever take a drink for the rest of my life. But Emily came and picked me up, and I continued to be a horrific person to her. And then the next morning, I decided that I don't know that I decided. I think I finally recognized there maybe was a way out that I didn't know existed in the past, or I didn't want to pursue in the past. And it was the first time I admitted to myself that I was an alcoholic. It's the first time I said the word out loud, and I said it out loud to Emily. And I remember very vividly, I said, I think I'm an alcoholic. And she goes, I think so too. Like,
She didn't miss a beat. Been waiting here for that.
All right, it's about time.
Yeah. She's like, oh, really?
Never noticed.
Yeah. She's like, yeah, you shocked everybody. Well, what's funny though is, it's not funny, but it just speaks to that, hiding. When I started to tell people, like my friends and my family and stuff, and I was using those words, a lot of them, even my parents, were really kind of surprised. They didn't, because I was such a good hider.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to let them see truly who I was. But yeah, a lot of them were surprised. I think Emily might have been the only one who wasn't surprised.
What was the hardest? Was it freeing to say that word, or was it extremely hard to say that word? Did you feel a peace a little bit, or did you go, I'm frightened to say this? Because then it becomes reality, right?
Yep. I think you just said it perfectly. It was arguably one of the most freeing moments in my life. It was also probably one of the scariest moments in my life, mainly because it was like, well, now what?
Right. The unknown.
I don't know what to do from here. I know I don't want to do this. I know I can't do this anymore. I know I'm an alcoholic, but what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I've been so open about my past. And, I'm interested in talking to anybody who's willing to listen about it, because I want people to know that like there's people out there who know the solution. There's people out there who can help and who know exactly what to do. Like I know exactly what to do in this moment. If somebody told me that. And I did. I called the one person I knew. He's supposed to be here tonight. He's going to be here tonight. But I called Brad, and he's incredibly open about this. And I say it all the time, and I can probably finally say it without crying, but Brad saved my life. There's no doubt in my mind that if I would have continued down that path, my life would have ended. I don't know when, I don't know how, but at least my life as I knew it would have ended for sure. And the only reason I knew about Brad is because he was so open about his story to other people, because Brad wants to help people. Yeah. He wants to be one of those resources. So, you know, I had a lot of stuff going on in my head, but pretty soon, once my mind got clear, I was pretty committed to like, I'm going to be one of those people that shares this message. And I'm going to be one of these people that is open about my story. I'm not shameful. I don't try to hide it. And I shouldn't say it like that, because there are a lot of guys and gals that I know that they're not shameful or regretful or guilt-ridden, but they don't share as openly, and that's to each their own, right? Like I don't want to make it sound like it's bad that they don't share, but for me and in my experience, I chose that I need to share this because number one, it helps me. It reminds me, like as I'm sitting here, I'm getting a little sweaty thinking about the past, you know, and it brings back a lot of memories. But most importantly, I know it can help somebody because somebody else did the exact same thing and it saved my life.
You said something in there I want to kind of maybe highlight or emphasize a bit. You know, you felt like your life was going to be over. Mm-hmm. When we say that, and people who have fought this understand this, you quickly think your life is over, like you're going to die. Yeah. But you have to we forget that your life is over as you know it, and something else has occurred, like hitting a vehicle and killing 2 people and facing vehicular homicide, or hitting 3 parked cars, blacking out, waking up to a cop going, what are you doing? Yeah. And you see these things and your life is over, but it's just beginning. Yeah. And the beginning part is scary because you have no idea what's going to happen, because now your life is not in your control. It's control of the courts. Mm-hmm. So we forget about that. Like it's easy to go, I'm going to die. No, you may really wake up to something that you may not want, right? The old saying is the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. Yeah. And sometimes that kind of keeps you in tracks. Like I have control of this, I have alcohol, I can do this thing. And it's way better than the alternative. Yeah. Right. And so I think we really want to highlight that is we tend to think the life is over as life itself, but your tangible life, what you do, what your life, your marriage could be over. Yeah. Your kids don't talk to you anymore. You give, and all that is gone. And then what are you left with? The bottom, right? And then that becomes your only gripping force, because that's the thing you can control. Yeah. I can control what goes into my mouth. Yeah. And so everyone else is wrong. Yeah. Everyone else is. I think it's really important to highlight is don't go down that pathway of just thinking it's just death. Yeah. It's not, right? It could be your life that completely changes. Mm-hmm. That's important.
And I think it's like so many people maybe like I think it's easy from the outside looking in to know that, you know, everybody else can see like, dude, you're going to lose everything. You're going to lose your job, your family, you know. But when you're in that moment, for whatever reason, that stuff can be really, really hard to see. You can be almost completely blind to it, it seems like, you know. And so many other people see it and want to tell you, but, you know, I'm not going to listen to them. Yeah, I don't have anything to hear or say about those, hear anything about that from other people. But yeah, it's, you know, life as you know it is very fragile, and life as you know it is a gift every single day. And we're one decision away from life being like catastrophically different, you know?
Yeah. People ask me all the time, and I've told this to him and my daughter as well growing up, you know, you're always one decision away from being the other person. Yeah. We tend to forget about that, right? The difference between me and a person that's in jail is they got caught and I didn't. Yeah. And I use that as my reminder to keep pride down. Yeah. Right. And same thing with alcohol. The only difference between me and that person is because of the recognition and not allowing it to take my life. So it's for anybody who's listening, it's really important to understand that, you know, it's them, it's me, it's not me, it's them. You know, you battle these arguments inside your head all the time. And in the end, remember the only difference between that person that's trying to help you is they've been through it and they see it and they can. I think that was, you know, you with Brad and how you went through yours, you know, somehow, some way you heard that story right? And you knew exactly who to go to,
Yeah.
right?
It was there.
It's almost like maybe he was priming you,
Mhm.
right?
He might have been. He probably saw it.
Yeah, right. Because game recognizes game,
Yeah.
right?
There you go.
And so when you look at this, that person in your life to help you not just get through it, but help trigger that. Oh, you know what? You are right.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important to think about those things.
And it's cool. You just said not to just like in that moment. But like by the time I called Brad, like 40 minutes later, he was at my doorstep and he's been by my side for the last 4.5 years, like a phone call away, So it wasn't just, and that's what I think all of us have to offer. That's what I have to offer to other people. It's not like you don't just call me one time and I like give you a piece of paper with all the resources on it and send you on your way. No, I've been there. Like I've experienced the ups and downs. I know I know how hard it can be, and I know how absolutely life-changing, amazing it can be. I know I shouldn't say I know all of that stuff. I have experienced a lot of ups and downs in my recovery, and I will continue to experience ups and downs in my recovery. Like it's a lifelong journey. So we need to be there for other people, not just in that one moment, but years later, and that's what Brad's done for me. And that's what I hopefully do for other people too.
Right. So for those that are watching that may or may not be going through a similar story, was it harder reaching out for help? Was it harder receiving it, or maybe both?
I think the hardest thing I've ever done was make that phone call. It was so hard reaching out for help because I really feel like it was I'm always, alcoholics are fearful, they're driven by fear. They're driven by anxiety. They're driven by, ego preservation. So I wanted to be in complete control. And I knew when I called him, I had to release all of that control. I no longer had control over the mask. Like somebody else knows that the mask is not real. I had to, I didn't know what the future would hold. Like, do I have to go to rehab? Can I do this on my own? Will I have help? Will my wife understand? Will my family be with me? Will my job support me? Will all of these different things? So there's so much fear in that moment. I think once that door was opened up, the receiving help for me in my experience was easy.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say easy. I was so willing to do whatever it took to change the life that I was living that it felt easy.
Mm-hmm.
It took a lot of really hard work. So it wasn't just easy and freely given. I had to do some work for it. But yes, the phone call, the reaching out that was hard.
Yeah.
How long did it take you?
Oh, 3 years probably. I probably dialed that phone number a couple different times, towards the end there, and just chose not to. Like things seemed okay or thought I could handle it. But then like I said, that night and, into the next morning, something I know what it is now, but something came over me and everything was so clear to me. Like, this is the moment. You have to act now. It is, life is done. So just do it. And I finally did it.
What was the last thought before phone call, and what was the first thought after?
I think the last thought before the phone call was, I think I probably made the phone call with the thought of, I have to do something to save my marriage, my career, my life. So it was like I have to save something here. And then the first thought after the phone call, where is he? I need to see him right now. I don't have time to wait around for him. It was like I wanted the solution right now. I wanted the solution 10 years ago. So that 30 or 40 minutes that it took for him to drop everything he was doing and drive to my house, that was probably the longest 40 minutes of my life.
So now you're in your recovery.
Yep.
You're day to day, step by step.
Yep.
In your recovery. How difficult was it returning to work? I would say sober, but sober minded.
Yeah.
Sober focused. Did things change? Did things worse? Did you feel judged? What was it like?
Yeah. So I didn't go away or anything. I didn't do any inpatient rehab. I'm actually kind of surprised I didn't. But I didn't experience. I experienced withdrawals, but I say this And again, it's probably one of those anecdotal things, but I think my shift work that forced sobriety into my life for, sometimes 3 days at a time. I think that actually truly helped me, like where I didn't experience detox, or I didn't experience any sort of withdrawal symptoms. So I didn't go to inpatient rehab. And I think a lot of people would benefit from inpatient rehab. But so what I chose to do was I chose to tell, not everybody, but I chose to tell some people because I was on the fire department now. I was working at Station 8 when I got sober. And I chose to tell my captain. He's since retired, but it's so cool to be a part of this time, if you will, like the culture we have at our organization of being able to be open and to share and know that you're supported. And then the leadership that was demonstrated, not in the moments when I told him that I was going through recovery, but in the moments leading up to that. Like from the first time that I met him, he demonstrated this openness and that he really cared about his employees and that he was with you. He was going to walk next to you and help you through any situation you had. So he created this environment where I knew I was safe to go to him. So I went to him. Obviously Emily knew, and there was a handful of people, probably 3 or 4 in the early stages. So not a lot of people knew, but I think it got easier. Like there's obviously some anxiety with getting sober because you don't have alcohol anymore. Some people say that one of the best parts about getting sober is you get all your feelings back, and one of the worst parts about getting sober is you get all your feelings back. So now I didn't have my only coping mechanism that I ever knew. I didn't have it anymore. So I was probably a little irritable. I probably went up and down a little bit, but I think in general, I was just so grateful for this freedom that I had that in pretty short order, I think it impacted my relationship with coworkers. It impacted my relationship with, private ambulance providers who, historically maybe had a pretty bad relationship with and treated them poorly. So those are the things that instantly got better. Not everything seemed like such a huge deal. I just wasn't so worried about anything. I think in that kind of early infancy stages of getting sober, I realized how fragile I was and how fragile life is, and just how lucky I was to have this gift and this opportunity to live a different life, that everything was this is no big deal. The 3 calls after midnight were great. I love it. I love being able to be here, Yeah. Don't get me wrong, that faded back away. I'd prefer not to run many after midnight if I could, but so I think in general it got better pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think we forgot. I've said this to him growing up too, as also my trainees that I also train growing up. Sometimes you will not get a second chance to make the same mistake.
Yeah.
And I can't emphasize that enough, right? We think, and then being with alcohol and being in a part of that culture, and also a part of that in my family and my life, that those repeat offenses get easier and easier because you can keep going. And then once you gain your sobriety, and that shield is gone and you're exposed, right? You're like, okay, that's where the anxiety comes from. It's because now you cannot cope, hide, celebrate. You can't do the things that you used to.
Yeah.
And now it's on you, right? And no more blaming Emily, no more blaming friends, no more blaming ambulance providers, because this is what we do. We project.
Yeah.
It's everybody else's fault, right? Everyone's kind of been through this. You tend to force those feelings on somebody else. It's them, it's not me.
Yeah.
And now that's gone.
Yeah.
And so that's got to leave an empty feeling.
Yeah.
A hole in a sense going, whoa, and it's got to be filled with something.
Yeah.
What'd you fill it with?
So in the early stages, I filled that with a 12-step program. That's in my experience what has worked for me. There's a lot of different ways to get sober. I know people who are sober today who have never done a single step in their entire life. And I think that's great. If you're sober and it's long-term, sustainable, healthy, emotional sobriety, good on you.
That's my father was the oddest alcoholic I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yes. hands down. He would drink and then one day go, I'm not doing that anymore, and just stop.
Yeah.
And no withdrawal.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing.
Yeah.
Right. And then 2 years, and then I'm not talking months. I'm talking years.
Yeah.
I'd be like, no, I'm drinking again.
Yeah.
He'd do that with chew.
Yeah.
He would do that with marijuana. He would start and stop like I've never seen anybody do before. He's what I would talk like dip his toe in it, and then in the end he hung out in it.
Yeah.
Right. And eventually it's going to get you.
It'll get you.
And that was what's weird about my father.
Yeah.
It's like one day he's like, I'm done.
Yeah.
And
Which great, right?
yeah, great.
There's if that's how you, I guess what I knew is I had tried to do it on my own before. Like I had tried to slow down, control, stop, hide. I tried to do all those things on my own, but I was always right back to doing exactly what I was doing. And most of the time it was worse.
Right.
So I knew that I needed something else. So in those moments, you know, I was pretty rigid in the first probably 6-8 months of my sobriety, like really in that really important phase. All phases are important. Like the day that I started doing step work is just as important as today.
I'll say it's the foundational part.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a good way to put it. I got to build this foundation. I got to work through 12 steps, and I really got to learn who I am. I really got to learn what drives me, what my fears are, what my character flaws are. I got to make amends to people. I got to, you know, I had the opportunity to have some conversations I didn't think I would ever get to have. So that's what I filled it with initially. And then, you know, nowadays, I still work a program. I still do step work. But my life is a lot bigger now. My life is a lot bigger because I got sober. So, I spend a lot of time now, very simply put, trying to give as much time back to Emily that I took away from her, because I took away years, you know. We've been married in 3 days. Excuse me. In 3 days, we'll be married 12 years.
Congrats.
Thanks. And I've been sober for 4.5. So, you know, you can do the math there. I took a lot of time away from her. And it's a part of my living amends. Like I don't just get to say sorry one time. Like I have to demonstrate a change for the rest of my life. So I've been able to give back time to her. I develop new relationships with people who are also sober, who are some of the most important people in my life. You know, I filled it with studying for a promotional exam and changing career paths. And, you know, I'm beyond grateful for what I have. And I know that it's a gift that's been given to me. I had to do some work to get there. But I had an opportunity and I was able to take it. I like to do a lot of cycling. You know, that's why I was off injured for a little bit, snapped that collarbone. But I think like a lot of alcoholics, we pick up endurance training. You know, so for me, I chose cycling because I'm trying to dabble in running a little bit, but I'm not really a runner. So, but yeah, cycling and has been a huge part of my life. I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about it. When I was a drinker, I was the biggest flake in the entire world. Like I would commit to all sorts of stuff. I would tell you, I will be there. I will do it no matter what. And then I would flake.
Yeah.
I would lie to you. I would, you know, whatever. And quite honestly, I didn't have any integrity with myself. I'd be like, I'm going to quit drinking for 2 weeks. And then like 4 hours into that endeavor, I'm drinking again. Or I'm going to train for a half marathon. And then 2 miles in, I'm like, nah, I'm not doing it. So I had no integrity for myself.
Yeah.
So I figured after I got sober, it was really important to me to prove that I could have integrity with myself and actually stick to something and commit to something. So I started bike racing. I put a couple of bike races on the calendar and it's changed my life. Like I've been fitter than I've been in a long time. I've demonstrated commitment and integrity to myself more for longer than I have in a long, long time. And I love it. Like it's changed my life. So.
Yeah, I think as you're telling your story, it's very interesting. So alcoholics will always say that they're sorry. Recovering alcoholics will act like they're sorry.
Yeah.
That's the difference, right? You went from always being sorry to now, in a sense, making amends and being sorry, and then putting that energy into things that benefit your relationships, right? You filled that hole with other things that not destroy you like alcohol can, but actually benefit you.
So thinking back to maybe a couple years into sobriety, which is great. The calls don't stop, right? 4.5 years, you've had some high acuity calls in that time. What was that like?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it leads me to, you know, I think when I got my feelings back and I didn't have my coping mechanism, I was like, oh boy, I might have to do something here. So, you know, again, culturally, it's become so much more normal now to talk about mental health, to talk about, you know, the bad calls and how they make us feel. And I don't think around the kitchen table needs to be a soapbox, or a like a daytime reality TV show necessarily, but we talk about it now, which is great. So I realized that I needed to make a change. And I was I was connected with the peer support team with the fire department, and those peer supporters. Again, the other part of my story is when I started seeking help through a counselor and doing things like EMDR and neurofeedback, and all of those, started to explore some medication solutions for what I've got going on up here in my crazy brain. The only reason I was willing to approach that is because there was guys who I had a ton of respect for, who had a lot of time on the job, who were sitting around the kitchen table talking about going to therapy. If this guy can do it, so I went to him and I said, hey man, I'm feeling the same way that you were just talking about feeling a while ago. What should I do? And he hooked me up. He sent me on my way to a therapist, and those things change. I've changed therapists, and I've changed tactics and medication options, and I've explored all of those options. But sorry, I'm going to ruin your audio. So now I don't really feel like I don't need an in the moment coping mechanism like I had with alcohol, because I have a long-term solution. I have my program that I work, but I also have I do neurofeedback therapy. I go once a week, and it's been a huge change for me. I did talk therapy. I still do talk therapy, but I did a lot of talk therapy for three years, kind of on top of everything else that I was doing. So I'm committed to that, I'm also not just committed to it like, oh, I run a really bad call, I'm going to go talk to a therapist about it. I do this stuff on an ongoing basis to build that resiliency, to build that more permanent shield, if you will. So.
When you look at, you mentioned EMS culture and fire culture, right? When you look at this big picture, what parts of the culture unintentionally encourages unhealthy coping? What do you think about the culture promotes that still?
Did you say what about it or what?
Yeah, what about it promotes that? Is it a bravado? You think? I've again worked in different avenues across the state, hospital, pre-hospital, fire. I've seen a common theme and a thread. I'm just curious on your thoughts on what do you think? Why is it so encouraged?
Yeah,
unintentionally or intentionally?
I think obviously drinking. So I would say drinking is the thing that's the most encouraged. And I don't even know if encouraged is necessarily the right word, but I think as far as seeking, mental health help, seeing a therapist, reaching out to a peer supporter, getting more educated when it, comes to mental resiliency. And I think that part of the culture is changing. And that, I think that culture is well established enough that we're probably not going back on that. Like at a national level, I think, fire chiefs and leaders across the entire industry recognize the importance of that. The alcohol thing, I now that I'm sober, it blows my mind. Like every conference I go to, every, Strive for Excellence conference, the, international memorial, when the Fallen Firefighter Memorial comes here, like literally everything is centered around drinking, even at Local 5, right? At Local 5, we partner with breweries across town to raise money, which is a good thing. We have a partnership with them, and we raise money to to fund our foundation. So people, when they're in a time of need, we have financial ability, or we have some ways to support them financially, but we do it around alcohol. It's like, hey, come to the taproom takeover, come drink some beer, and I think I don't ever want to say that people can't drink. Like there's millions of people out there who can drink in a regular way, and they can drink healthily and safely, and that's great. I think so I'm not saying we need to eliminate it. What I am saying is I wish we could somehow normalize hey, it's okay to be one of the guys that shows up to one of those events and drinks soda water like it's going out of style.
Right.
Like you can have a Coke, you can have a soda water with lime, and you can have the same fun that you would have with those other people. I don't know why. And I really wrestle with it. I really wrestle with it on a personal level, because I really struggle to push that stuff out there and to kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like be a promoter of it. I struggle to promote that stuff, knowing what it did to me.
Mhm.
So I just do it and hope.
It's funny. I've been to national conferences across the country, and flying all over the country and doing different things. And the one thing I've never seen at a vendor booth,
Yeah.
never.
No.
Right. And not that it needs to be, but it'd be interesting if it did.
Yeah.
Right. And not be guilty about it.
Right.
Yeah. That's very interesting. I never thought about it until you mentioned it. I was like,
Yeah.
that's true. I've never seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
So I didn't know this until I went to the Strive for Excellence conference this year. There was a 12-step meeting in one of the conference rooms every morning at 6:00 in Las Vegas.
Wow. Really?
Yep. And I went there. I went to one of them, and there was 10 or 15 people there. There was probably 10 people there, out of 10,000
Right.
people who were at the conference, whatever. But I was shocked to see that. It was the first place and the only time I've ever seen it anywhere.
Did you feel relieved?
I did. It's kind of cool. Now, the reality is you can find them anywhere.
Mhm.
But it was cool that it was like, hey, there's a group of us here doing the same thing, and we're all sitting in this room together. It's cool.
You're not alone.
Exactly.
Right.
And then you see them later, you're like, hey, got a different bond with those
That's
people.
Right.
Do you think there's going to be a level of acceptance in the future culture of EMS for maybe those that aspire to have something that would take them away from that harsh reality? There's plenty of studies on ketamine therapies,
Mhm.
THC,
Yeah.
things of that nature. I don't know if you've ever had any thoughts about that.
So I know that I don't know the details of it because I don't think personally for me it's a good thing, but I know ketamine therapy has been super successful for a lot of people. I don't know any of the data that would support using THC in that way.
Mhm.
I think the fear for me in my experience is it doesn't matter if it's alcohol or THC or a ketamine treatment that's supervised by a physician is probably safe for me. I'm just not really interested in trying.
Mhm.
But something like marijuana, for example, it doesn't matter if it's alcohol or marijuana. I'm using one of those two things to block myself out from reality.
Mhm.
So I lose the ability to be present. I lose the ability to be in touch with my own emotions, my own feelings. I lose the ability to what they would say is it blocks you from the sunlight of the spirit. So I put this wall up. It doesn't matter if it's alcohol or marijuana. So for me, none of those are an option. And that's just my experience and that's my personal choice. But I think used safely by people who understand them, who understand the risks, who understand, and I don't even know if I want to say risks, but understand the potential outcomes. I think I could totally see it. Like I assume marijuana will be prevalent in the industry probably before the end of my career, I would assume. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you never want to replace one crutch for another.
Yes.
Right. That's the fear. At the same time, it's a weird balance. You don't want to miss out on a possible therapy or treatment.
Right.
And we want to make sure that I would think seeing a therapist and making sure that it's guided is the important part. Because if you're doing it on your own, I've had family members go from hard alcohol to beer and they think that fixed the problem.
Yeah.
Right. And so just because you're at a different venue or it's Zyn or it's whatever substance that gets you to cope becomes that addictive property. So I think if it's well regulated or used by a therapist, I can see the benefit. But if you're trying to do it yourself, that's just another manipulation.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's just another lie that your body's trying to tell you. I'm not an alcoholic. I can do this on my own.
Mhm.
And if you talk to any alcoholic that comes through sobriety, what's the first thing they say? I can't do this alone.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's really important. So looking at this and kind of seeing the culture, what do you think leadership has? We talked about conferences, but what do you think leadership has a role in this? Do you think leadership should lead the charge on their employees getting help or just go, you know what, we're just going to deal with it when it comes up?
So I think two things. I think leadership, I don't know if obligated is the right word, but I think a good leader and good leadership in an organization should have a plan for it. They shouldn't just be reactive to it. They should understand that their workforce, there are people in their workforce that are alcoholics. There are people in their workforce that are addicted to drugs right now. They just haven't said anything yet.
Right.
There's people who are hanging on by a thread right now. So there needs to be a plan for it. And I think we do a really good job of that. And I can't speak for any other organization, but whether that's the having a well-established peer support program, or these partnerships with, therapy services across town, or inpatient rehab, or IFF Center of Excellence, having a plan and an understanding of those resources, I think is critical for leadership. And maybe that's the higher level of leadership. Mm-hmm. And then I think the level of leadership, like, for example, where I'm at, as in the station, on the rig, supervisor, I think one of the most critical things that I can do is share my experience openly. I need to demonstrate to my people that it's okay. Like, if you have a problem and you want to come and talk to me about it, that I'm not going to judge you, because mm-hmm. I've been sitting where you're sitting. I've been through that. My wife has been through that. Like, we know those dynamics. We've felt those dynamics. So I think it's super critical for leaders who are interacting with the troops on a regular basis. I think it's super important that they're open about it. Now, obviously, don't lie. Like, if you've never had that experience, you don't need to talk about it. Mm-hmm. But, and I say that we need to be open about it because those are the two reasons that my life's changed. It's the reason I started going to therapy, and it's the reason I reached out for help to recover from alcoholism, because people were open about their story, and I knew that I wasn't alone. So, I think when people hear somebody with some seniority, and they hear somebody who is a supervisor, a lieutenant, a captain, a chief, whatever that is, they hear them talking openly about that. Number one, it demonstrates that, hey, look at where they're at in their career. They didn't get in trouble. They didn't get fired. Now, I would have if I wouldn't have gotten help. Mm-hmm. And if you don't get help and you continue to be a bad employee, you will get fired. You will be held accountable, as it should be. But if you're willing to say, I cannot do this anymore, I need help, at least where I work, you're going to be supported. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a huge responsibility on my part to be open about it.
So as we're kind of coming to a close, some of the statistics, if there's only 3 people that watch this podcast, 3 firefighters, statistically, 1 of 3 of them report binge drinking behaviors and potential alcoholic behaviors. What do you say to those that may be mirroring an image of that nature?
I think what I would say is that alcoholism doesn't look the same on everybody. Mm. I would say you don't have to be the person that's lost everything. I've never gotten a DUI. You don't have to be the person who gets a DUI. You don't have to be the person who loses your job. You don't have to be the person to be that 1 in 3 that is truly the alcoholic. I would also say to those people that being an alcoholic doesn't make you a bad person. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make you less than. It doesn't make you somebody that we should put off to the side and never talk to and never see again. None of those things are true. You should be seen. You should be heard. You should be valued, because you are absolutely still a good human being. You're probably making some terrible decisions under the influence and because of the things that you're struggling with. But I would say to those people, the 1 in 3 who probably knows it's them, they're just maybe not ready to say it yet. Saying it is really hard, but saying it is saying that and finally accepting that is arguably the most important thing I've ever done in my life. Mm-hmm. Hands down, probably I hope to do a lot of amazing things in my career. And that will still be the most important thing I've done in my personal life and professional life, because without it, nothing else would have. It'll probably be gone by now. By 4.5 years later, it'll be gone. So you don't have to be the guy living under the bridge to be the alcoholic in the room, and it's okay. Yep. You're still a good guy.
And you don't have to drink every day. You could be the binge drinker. That's still
the same.
Qualifies to get you into the club. And I think part of that too is up to 35% of healthcare providers actually report being active in misusing alcohol. And that's a big number. And like Chris mentioned, 1 over 3 EMS and firefighters report binge drinking. These numbers are numbers that are reported. Can you imagine what they're not being reported on?
Yeah.
And many depression, anxiety, mm-hmm. sleep disorders, post-traumatic stress disorder is a big one. And I think I also would like to say is, if you're somebody who's struggling with this, know you can recover. I think you can be the person that recovers. Don't run from the memories. Don't run from the pain. Each one is a brick and a foundation into who you are to this point in time to get the help you need, right? And timing is everything. Everyone's like, I'll do it later. I'll do it later. It may not be a later.
Yeah.
And it may not be a later because you have unfortunately lost your life, or it may not be a later because your life is completely changed. I would say there is no tomorrow. Accomplish it today. Take that brave step, because it is hard. It is really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
As we're looking towards this, and we have our listeners out there, and as we come to kind of reflect what we've been talking about, what would you say to the EMS firefighter who is convicted but fearful?
Very simply put, I would say it's okay. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be worried. It's okay to be emotional about it. It's okay. I was too. Most people are. I think every experience that I've had with somebody who has opened up to me about alcoholism or substance abuse, they have been scared. They have been fearful. You're absolutely right. You can recover. Like I feel like I was in the grips of alcohol for a long time. And now, like, there are some promises in the book, and I am absolutely set free from that. Like, there is no temptation to drink. I am not a white knuckled, like, man, I really wish I could have a drink tonight. There is zero desire. Like, that promise comes true. The desire to drink will be removed. And, you have to go through that scary time. You have to go through that crunchy time where it's like, oh man, I don't know what this is going to look like. But I mean, it could always look worse. You may as well give it a shot, because you can recover. And I think the other thing I would say to those people is there's people who understand, like, at their core, like I can get a physical reaction. I know how you feel. Like, I know how scared you are. I know how scary it can be. I know how intimidating the process can be. And I would also say that don't think that there's only one way.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if you're worried about, doing 12 steps, that's not the only way to get sober. It's what worked for me. But there's other people who've gotten sober other ways who I look up to, who I have a ton of respect for, who I'm so glad they're sober and they're emotionally sober. And again, the most important people in my life. So just because I've done it one way doesn't mean that's the only way.
Right.
So many different ways. So don't let that barrier be what prevents you from reaching out. Like, oh, they're just going to tell me to go join the club and do the thing. And, I've got to make amends to people.
Be a challenge going.
But eventually there was light at the end of your tunnel, which was one of the big morals of that.
Yeah, there was absolutely light at the end of the tunnel. And I think the light at the end of the tunnel came like the day I asked for help. Like, I finally started being not in this black hole of a room. It was like, way out there, I can see that there's some light down there. But I was free. Like, when I finally admitted it and I finally asked for help, I was free. Like, no doubt about it. It was the most freeing moment of my life.
What do you say to those that, believe that the suffering is a penance for the bad behavior or the person that they are? You mentioned about your kind of what you talked about being and how you treated people. Mm-hmm. There are some out there that go, I don't deserve healing.
Yeah.
This is my penance. I deserve this pain.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I have felt that before. It went away fairly quickly because I shifted that more to, if I heal and if I recover, then I can demonstrate to those people that's not who I am. Mm-hmm. And then I don't ever have to treat people like that again. Like, I've treated people terribly, like terribly. And I don't believe that people deserve to suffer for that. I've also got some religious beliefs that support that. And I don't want to, I won't turn anything into a religion conversation, but I would say to those people, if we can heal and we can recover, you can be a tool to somebody else. You can be a value to somebody else. You can take all of that shame and guilt you have and you can turn it to helping other people. You can turn it to, maybe being the light in somebody's life that they have never had, or being the one person who's nice to them in a day, or like, you're just so much better healed and recovered. I personally don't feel like you deserve to sit around and suffer. If you want to, you can.
Yeah. What's your choice? Yeah. I think let's do word association, right? And so when I say something, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? It could always be worse. It could always be better too.
Yeah.
That's the problem, right? It's changing your thought process. And that's what's hard. Those are suffering. I deserve to suffer.
Yeah.
You know what? No, I don't.
Yeah.
Words matter. And the words that you tell yourself matter.
Yeah.
Right. And if you ask 100 people that same question, 99 out of the 100 are going to say it could always be worse.
Yeah.
It could always be better too. I think that's also what we have to highlight is for those who are suffering, you can get help. There can be healing and the struggle can be less.
Yeah.
I think that's also important. So coming to the end of this and looking at this and kind of reflecting as our conversation, we're trained to recognize emergencies on everybody, right? But we really do a hard time recognizing emergencies in us. And we have no problems going to a cardiologist. We have no problems going to a neurologist. We have no problems going to an endocrinologist, right? Name an ologist out of it. If we have a sickness, we have no problems heading that way to seek healing. But God forbid we seek a behavioral specialist.
Yeah.
That's how we have to look at it, right? If we're okay with treating other things, we have to be okay with treating the behavioral health, the mind, the heart, the soul, and try to elongate our life, elongate our careers, to be that light to somebody else. So as we look for this, if this resonates with you and this strikes a nerve with you as a listener, know that recovery is possible. Recovery is there. It's within grasp. It's within reach, and you're not alone. And asking people for help is just the one step. And get ready, because if you ask for help, the cavalry's coming. And I can't emphasize enough. There are people around that will help you, like Kent, like Chris, like myself, that we can be there for you and help you through these tough times. As always, I want to thank our guest, Kent, for coming out and spending some time talking about a difficult subject. Make sure to reach out to those, not just individuals, but professionals as well, to help you get you on the healing process. And as always, guys, we're always here to train minds, but real important, we're here to heal hearts.